Yeah. All right. Welcome to the Hot Cloud Show, the Cybersecurity Awareness Month edition. Great to be here. The black hat is back. It is cold outside, so it's time for the felt. With me today,
I have a question from the audience. How can we call it the Hot Cloud Show now if you're wearing black because it's cold?
it's a great question. Let's table that for the moment, and we'll debate that throughout the next 3 hours that we're having this conversation.
The
But
audience wants to know.
all right, tell you what, let's get through introductions first, and then we can dive into the grab bag of topics that we've prepared for today. With us today is the one, the only Shannon Lynch. Say hello, Shannon.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. I'm glad that they let me on the stream today, so I will throw these guys for loops a little bit.
Shannon, you're on the marquee. You're part of the wrecking crew here. So it's about time we circled back and got you into the rotation. And of course, Rob Callaghan, our cyber guy, our resident nerd, the guy who keeps me honest, or mostly honest, most of the time.
I thought it was keeps you annoyed. I can't remember. Is it honest or annoyed?
Annoyed? No, not at all. But you do carry the bail money for me, so I appreciate that. Hey, it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Aside from all I mean, let's be honest. I think every month should be right Cybersecurity Awareness Month, but the fact that October, is it's highlighted, everybody, groups around it, and then right around the corner, right, we've got the most hackiest time of the year, when it seems like all the bad actors love to deprive everyone of their time off and time with family by doing mean, nasty things over the holidays. So,
They just gotta accrue that money to afford Cyber Monday and Black Friday deals.
I think at the scale they're operating these days, I can't remember the number I just read, but the average ransom has more than doubled in the last year, right? And we're talking millions of dollars. So, thank you, Bitcoin, for enabling the ransomware movement.
Well, it's doubled, and now it's become almost a ransomware as a service these days.
Raz, it is. I saw it. It's Raz, ransomware as a service.
Oh yeah, no, it's it's all out there, right? And you just get on the dark web. You can it's like you just go shopping, right? All you got to do is identify the targets, identify the vulnerabilities, choose your attack vector, click the button, launch it. They'll run the attack for you. They'll run the ransom routine for you. They'll take their piece of the action, and then you get your money and move on, which is just really sad, really, really sad. But hey, speaking of news and cyber, Rob, you were saying earlier in our table read, you'd had some interesting notes on things in the news. What are you seeing these days?
Well, at the top, across all three news services, Windows users are exposed to 600 million cyber attacks every day. Isn't that encouraging?
Wow.
The cyber attack hits the largest U.S. public water utility.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I like this one. Given the time off, cyber masterminds are targeting FBI, CNN, Hulu, Netflix, Microsoft, and X in a global plot.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget that, and thanks to folks like CISA, FBI, and other three-letter agencies, right, securing, at least in North America, right, securing our election process, because that's another area that we're seeing intense activity with the election just a couple weeks away. Which we're not going to talk politics today.
No.
In fact, that's never on the agenda. We're just talking tech. We're talking, wasabi. And May even drop a little knowledge bomb, right, to help folks mitigate the threat.
Well, I want to share one other thing, and I thought this was interesting, is you can't rely on thinking, well, it's not me, or it's not the product, or it's not what I do is important. There was even an article here that says Adobe products are at high risk for cyber attacks, says the government. So even if you're doing graphic design, and then what I can't figure out is that the Russians, according to this article, are the ones that took down the Wayback Machine. And I'm thinking, why? I mean, what about the Internet Archive was so whatever that there's no money, there's nothing. I have no idea. But it's just, yeah, everything is vulnerable. You got to be prepared. And we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, we are. We're also, by the way, I was negligent in my introduction. Shannon is our in-house subject matter expert on all things MSPs. So if you're an MSP and you're tuning in and you're not one of my three cousins, thanks cousins, stick around. You might learn a thing or two because in this day and age, it is really the MSP that has to protect the customer's data. Most folks, especially on the lower end of the spectrum, if you will, they're not running their own data centers. They don't want to run their own data centers. They want someone to run it for them. Shannon.
What he meant to say was the smaller mid-sized customers, not lower end.
Thank you for the clarification, Rob.
Small businesses are targeted more than any other unit. And it's mostly because they don't have the tools, they don't have the expertise. And if MSPs are coming in as subject matter experts for that, they have to not only protect all of that data for multiple customers in their own environments, but they have to do a good job at making sure that their customers practice good cyber hygiene.
And you start in the right place, Shannon. And I think Rob and I have talked about this previously. You know, it all starts with human behavior. Don't click that link. Don't keep your username and password on a sticky note inside your laptop. I believe there's a series of great tips coming around the corner on Wasabi Social.
I do.
Go ahead.
I got a couple for this show. I got a couple.
Our friendly healthcare CISO is sharing the knowledge on social media. Make sure you tune in and watch them all.
And sorry, Shannon, you were saying?
Oh, sorry. I cut out. I have a couple do's and don'ts to share later with you guys on cyber hygiene, and then we'll talk a little bit about how Wasabi helps enable that recovery piece afterwards.
Well,
but I think Rob cut off. He was talking about healthcare.
Yeah, he's secured a CISO to do a sequence of tips, and then
and an upcoming thing we'll talk about. But Michael Johnson is just really refreshing to listen to. He's got great tips. He's got knowledge, experience, and he can help you beyond even healthcare to talk about best practices.
All right, so tell you what, let's move on into that topic. Okay, so cybersecurity. First of all, let's pause for a moment and talk about what exactly are we talking about. We're talking about keeping your systems, your applications, your databases, your data safe and secure, meaning that only the people who should be accessing the information are accessing it, and that in cases where you work in a highly regulated industry, healthcare is probably one of the easiest to reference. Nobody is sharing personally identifiable information with anyone that shouldn't be looking at it. Fair to say?
Yep.
Pretty good. Did I leave anything out? Shannon, what are your thoughts here? You've been doing a lot of work around cyber resiliency and how that affects our customers, specifically our MSP partners. Chime in.
So healthcare is a big unit because of the amount of compliance data that needs to be safe. So we're talking about data and private information that is 7-10 years old, that is just ripe for the picking for hackers. That has to go with their topology too, because it's, healthcare is one of the slowest adopters of new technology, for those compliance specific reasons, and it just makes it big vulnerability points that can be for finance as well. I do think small businesses do get targeted more because of the human factor versus the technology and compliance factor. Um, so it really depends on what industry you're in and where it impacts. Education gets hit a lot too. Ransomware targets mainly because of student records, healthcare records for students, and just the ability for education to have the finances to support the infrastructure. They have to choose, do I make sure my students have the tools that they need to succeed, or do I secure all their data? And sometimes you can't do both, which causes a little bit of failure there.
It's interesting you brought that up, because we were talking to some people in the educational space, and one of the biggest challenges in education is a lot of it's done by students, and those students come and go all the time. So you're always training new people and trying to keep them up to the latest technologies, best practices, but also they're also probably the most vulnerable because they're not used to doing what they do.
Yeah, it's a rotating door of students. Like you'll have students that only spend a semester or two, 4 years. You also have rotating teachers,
5 years.
because you'll have classes that change on that as well. I forget. There was a study last year that said that like 27 universities were targeted specifically for ransomware attacks. Um, so making sure that you have a system in place, or just having that backup data plan, so that you control who has access to the information might be key, especially with that rotating door.
Right. And that's where we come in, right? That's where Wasabi comes in. One is to help reduce the cost of data protection, right? With our predictable pricing. So, it's your data. You can access it when you want, however you want. There's no additional fees, right, for accessing your information, for updating your information, for keeping it secure. We can get into the whole object lock debacle some other time, probably. But
I think you bring up a good point, Drew, and the ability to store more for longer, because we're finding that cyber attacks sit for longer and longer in your environment before they're even triggered. So you have to go back 6 months to find a known good copy of data.
Yeah.
If you're going to be penalized for either having to store it or pull it back, you may not want to follow those best practices, and then you're going to get challenged later when you can't find that, and it's going to impact your business, your school, your hospital, or whatever.
Yeah, I think in at least in the backup space, and we do a lot of work in the backup space. We have tremendous partnerships with every major backup software company. The days of the daily incremental, weekly, monthly, quarterly, maybe one annual backup, those are gone, really, because the frequency of backups has increased. The retention period for backups, as you said, 6 to 12, maybe even longer. And these are not inconsequential amounts of data either. Most considerable IT operations are going to consume tens of terabytes, maybe even hundreds of terabytes over the course of a year. And then obviously leveraging the cloud, you've got this virtual air gapping capability so that you have a completely separate system, completely separate set of credentials to manage, a little bit more management work, but because it is separate from your on-prem systems, the entitlements, the accessibility is easier to control to a more finite set of users. Hey, that sounded pretty good. I should write that down.
Yeah, I think, and you bring up an excellent point. It's not we've gone way beyond if, it's when.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared because everybody's going to have somebody in the environment that's going to click on something or a vulnerability they didn't patch or a something or other. And so you got to be prepared knowing it's going to happen to you.
So,
Oh,
like talking about preparedness, something that we help a lot of businesses do is the ability to test your security plan, test your backup strategy, while being able to stay within your budget.
absolutely. Shannon, you had, we talked earlier, you had some do's and don'ts for the MSP audience specifically. Why don't you jump into that? Take us through that.
Okay, I do have a couple do's and don'ts. Number one actually highlights what Rob brought up in his news about Hulu and the streaming services being attacked. Don't share passwords. Number one, don't share your passwords.
Oh, I got to call my daughter. Hold on.
That's probably
Cut her off. Cut her off.
There's a lot of people that are going to lose access to Disney Plus and Netflix for me sharing that, but don't share your passwords.
So, if I may, Shannon, is the corollary to that you don't need more than one root user for your services accounts? That giving everybody root access is probably a bad idea.
Yeah, as much as we'd like to share resources for all, we got to be a little bit selfish and secure the resources we have.
Fair enough.
Can I
Okay.
talk from my nerd hat here? There's this thing called least privileged access that sort of encompasses what we just talked about. Give anybody that needs access the least that they need to get their job done, and not everybody should have, need, or ever get root or anything like that.
That's right. That's right. Only, not, not everybody needs access to everything all the time. And it's as much of a management task or a management issue as it is a technology issue.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Shannon, keep going, please.
Number two, and this is something that I'm guilty of. If you went on my personal computer and saw what version of Microsoft I have, you'd be horrified. Don't ignore software updates. I think I have Windows 8 still.
No,
my personal laptop.
impossible. Shannon, we got to talk after this.
I have it right here. If you want to.
No, all right. You know what? Just open the window. Just open the window. Throw it out the window. Oh my goodness! All right, we're gonna do a GoFundMe for Shannon to get her a computer with trusted modules and Windows version that has a little bit more security. I think Windows 8 is like the most hacked version of Windows in the history of Windows.
Oh, it is on that laptop. It's Windows 8. It's.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. This is funny. Remember a certain cybersecurity company that pushed out an update that caused the airlines to not be able to fly? And
Oops.
the one airline that was able to fly was because they were on really old versions of Windows,
True.
2000 XP, all these things. And they had never updated their system to the newest technology. So they weren't affected.
Well, wait a minute. It wasn't because they were running an antiquated version of the operating system because they're so frugal. I'll use that word generously, right? It's because those older operating systems didn't support the update that was being pushed out.
6 one, half a dozen the other. At the end of the day, they were flying. Nobody else was.
That's like a, we'll call it a rare instance where that worked.
Yeah. I mean, you're counterpointing Shannon's excellent point. Like, stay up to date. Like, keep the patches up to date. I mean, that the version management, the patch management, that's a whole job unto itself. And again, this is a reason why so many folks in the SMB and SME market, how'd I do, Rob?
Very good.
Will employ an MSP, a trusted, proven MSP, right, to help them manage their IT operations because the MSP is expert in, right, delivering those services in a secure manner.
Yeah,
So,
MSPs will
Although
make
I
sure
think
the
you may have triggered a certain marketing person we had that just heard a whole string of acronyms.
oh, DB, yeah, he's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. He's twitching in the corner.
Yeah,
Go on, Shannon.
that's a
Go
good
on.
point. That's where MSPs come in because they do the software updates, but it's also their job to make sure that small businesses that have my mentality actually follow through with their updates.
No, but you bring
Another
up an
one,
excellent point. The MSP has the time to look at all the things out there, keep up to date on those. What are best practices? What's the best combination of things? So the customer doesn't have to, and they can focus on what the customer likes to do, make money in their business.
100%. Number 3, and this one is really important because Gen AI has made this very, very difficult to spot. Don't trust unverified emails. Emails now are becoming so sophisticated from a hacker's point that they look legit. Like I get UPS emails about tracking packages, and the spelling errors aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And they're able to mine data from other places to throw into it now, is because of all these other hacks that they give you enough. You start to think, wow, they know a lot about me. It must be legit. Yep, it's a good one.
Yeah, I drive my family insane because we have a let's call it a family credit card, right, for emergency use and authorized use, and I have the alert set at a penny, and I watch every single transaction come across because lo and behold, right, I've gone on holiday and somebody had a skimmer in their pocket. Next thing I know, I get home and there's somebody racked up some huge bills, and I
It all
apply.
starts with a dollar charge.
Yeah, I apply that same paranoia to emails. Like, Shannon, I get those messages too, and it's like, well, and I don't keep a spreadsheet of everything I order to cross tabulate with notification emails, but I have a pretty good sense of who's ordering what in the household, and you get those notifications, those fake notifications saying click here to get your updated status. You're like, no, I'm good. I'll just go to UPS. I have an account with them. They track everything for me.
Oh, I want to transition just for a second. Everybody, please go on demand, watch our video with OG Hacker. You can learn how OG saved a certain person on this webinar when he was buying sketchy bike parts in a place he shouldn't have been, and how OG came in and saved the day. Just saying. Okay.
So you mean after we're done here, go watch the
Yes.
OG Hacker webinar? Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about it
Oh,
later in this thing, where all the resources available.
You
All right,
shouldn't be leading people off the stream.
I couldn't hear either one of you because you talked right over each other. So, Shannon, you go.
I was saying, Rob, leading people to webinars while we're streaming, you got to have more faith in what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. I think the intent was excellent. The timing, questionable.
But it was right there talking about buying bike parts.
I wasn't talking about buying bike parts. I didn't say bike parts. You said bike
transactions
parts.
that you didn't approve.
So another don't is don't solely rely on password for your security measures. That one's very dangerous too. You got to make sure you have different factors to get into your environment, like multi-factor authentication.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what is it? I think Facebook, Instagram offer MFA, which would probably reduce the number of messages I get every week from friends, and I do have some that say, hey, this isn't me. My account got hacked. Don't respond to this message asking for money. For such and such charity. That wasn't me. Blah blah blah. I would expect, and you don't have to own up to it if it's not true, but I have every kind of security feature possible turned on for my bank, my credit cards, my mortgage, anything financial, anything touching money, my Amazon account, right? All as tight as I can possibly get it. Is it more work? Yes. Is it not always the most convenient thing? Yes. But you know what? Sleep better at night knowing that's all in place.
According to a certain bear, that did not extend to locking your pickup, I hear.
Oh gosh, I'll never live this down. You leave the truck unlocked one time, and one time a bear gets into your truck and eats a cookie, and you hear it for the rest of your life.
Aren't bears smart though? Like, wouldn't that bear now know that he can get cookies out of your truck?
Yes, Shannon, you are absolutely right. So now every night before bed, my lovely wife looks over at me and says, "Did you lock the truck?"
And did you take the cookie out?
and I thankfully I've got a fairly modern vehicle, and I have an app, and I look at my app and it tells me if the doors are locked, and if they're not, I don't have to get out of my warm cozy bed. I just click a button and the doors are locked.
How many
That
times did a
leaves
bear get in your truck? Just people want to know.
it only has to happen once.
Well,
Just one.
as it happened, it only happened to my truck once. It did happen to my son's truck once, but he leaves everything in there, and I'm surprised the bear wasn't repelled by all the other, things happening in that vehicle. So, how did we get onto bears and trucks? Like, we are so
Security.
far.
Not following proper security procedures exposes you to vulnerabilities.
Okay,
Well, yeah, I'll find a way to tie it together. Locking your truck is like encrypting sensitive data. Don't forget to do it.
beautiful, excellent. Look, if there was a way I could render my truck immutable, I'd love that too, right? But unfortunately, entropy will prevail, and right now the
But
truck
talk about that. If it's immutable, what's the next attack vector?
to just back up a tow truck and take the whole
No,
truck.
no. If not your truck, data. If your
Oh,
data is immutable.
well then, okay. Well, similar to what I just said about my truck, if the data is immutable, then you're going to attack the account. You're going to try to go for an account takeover, right? This is where MFA blocks it. This is where also multi-user
Authentication.
authorization. Let's use the correct term, Rob. Multi-user authorization comes into play to prevent bad actors from account takeover and deleting buckets, deleting an entire account. That is the atomic bomb, right? To throw at a storage service if you are trying to destroy all avenues of mitigation.
Yeah, let's just spin that around. It's like the two people that have to agree before you fire it in a silo, so one person doesn't have too much power to prevent
Absolutely.
someone from accidentally doing something like that or from deleting your account.
Absolutely.
Well,
And go ahead, Shannon.
isn't multi-user non-authentication authorization? Because I'm going to get that wrong. It's a triple effect. You need three. So
It's configurable. We support it with 1, 2, or 3 additional authorizations. So for our function within Wasabi, you can assign 1, 2, or 3 additional people. I recommend as many as possible. And as Rob has said many times in many webinars, beautifully put, right? Diversify, right? Don't have it all just be in the IT department. Get somebody from legal, get somebody from finance, get somebody from, engineering, right? Somebody who has a rational mind, who has maybe a healthy dose of paranoia when it comes to cybersecurity. And that way, when the email comes across saying, do you authorize this account deletion? They're going to look at it and go, yeah, that doesn't sound right. I didn't think we were deleting our entire 2 petabytes of storage today. I better call somebody and verify this, right? And yeah, go ahead, Rob.
No,
that's a
no,
really
no. I
good.
say that's great because it's a tripwire to say that, ooh, we better go check because this happened. What else is happening?
Well, that's something too to go further is that if you're gonna give more than one access point, it all should not be in your IT environment. It shouldn't just be IT people looking at it. You should be having finance, HR, Anyone that has a piece of the pie of like what impact the business has if the data is taken out.
Right. Absolutely, Shannon. Well said. All right, let's wrap up the cybersecurity topic per se. I love that there is a month dedicated to highlighting the topic. You know, kind of like daylight savings time, right? They tell you that it's a great time to change the batteries in your smoke detectors. Uh-oh. Hold on. I was trying to check my security cameras. I thought there was a bear in the yard. Anyway, great that it's highlighted, but again, it should not be just once a year. This should be something that every team is made aware of constantly. They should be testing the organization's awareness. I know we do that. Love it when I see those tests executed and we get a gold star because everyone has got that awareness and we all identify the potentially simulated nefarious actions. On that note, we've got some webinars here and there addressing not only cybersecurity, but also addressing some of the other hot topics. Shannon, what have you got in the queue coming up?
So we have a triple threat cybersecurity webinar coming up in November, where you're going to learn about the easy button solution with Probax, Veeam, and Wasabi. Definitely stay tuned to it because you need a team to make sure that you keep hackers out of your environment. And we got you covered there. Another webinar is Cyber Cloud Protect and Acronis. You're going to learn more about that in our final MSP Spicy Service Providers webinar of the year. We'll be filming that at Fenway, so that should be pretty interesting, especially since the people doing it, we're going to be doing the Hot Ones Challenge, so it's going to get really hot, and it's going to be more torturous than what I put through a couple months ago.
I heard there's crying involved, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'll be very surprised.
Rob, what do you got coming up?
Well, first, I have to say, everybody, if you want to learn about OG Hacker and the origin story, there's a video out there on Wasabi that you can get to. It's awesome, just the things that he created, influenced, impacted. I won't spill it, but there's some really things you didn't realize that he was involved in. There is a webinar where we actually talk to him about what are the things that are happening in regards to cyber attacks and things like that. And then finally, we have a webinar with a CISO that talks about best practices. Our healthcare CISO will spread the knowledge. And he's also got a bunch of tips you can see on social media on best practices to protect your environment. And then finally, with our partner Veritas, we have a webinar and talk about our joint solution coming up in December.
Love it. I know we've got a couple of trade shows coming up. I'll be at Educause in San Antonio with Marathon Freddy next week. Rob and I will be in Berlin for the Veeam 100 Summit. Looking forward to that. I think Gartner IOCS in London is just around the corner as well. So, if you're looking for some FaceTime with folks from Wasabi, check out our events page on the website. So, last but not least, before we close it out and kick everyone off for the weekend, big announcement. This is the last Hot Cloud show for October, just for October, because I'm packing a bag.
You almost caused panic out there among the universe.
Oh, good. I got the right reaction.
The multiverse. There you go.
I got the right reaction. I'm traveling. I got places to be, people to see. So we'll be back in November, and we'll figure out some tasty bits to bring along and try to entertain you with. All right, Shannon, Rob, thank you so much for sitting in today. Great having you. And for the folks out there, check out wasabi.com. Free trials, give it a shot, take it for a spin. Have any questions, look us up. We'd love to talk to you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take it easy.
Woo-hoo. See you guys.